Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1647. The topic is nutrition, and the title is, How Many Carbs Before a Workout is Too Much? Oh no. So I'm modifying a little bit from a listener's question, expanding on it, and hopefully still answering their base question. But the idea of the question came from what they wrote. So they wrote they were wondering if carb loading before a workout, which would be, you make sure that you consume enough carbohydrates. Well, I guess I have to go into the background. We store carbohydrates when we eat dietary carbohydrates. We store some of those carbohydrates in our muscles, assuming we also have sodium present and water present, which for the most part, there's sodium in a lot of our foods. We drink some kind of fluid every day to some degree, hopefully a little bit above the level that keeps us, moderately dehydrated. But when our body has available water and available sodium, and you consume carbohydrates, it will store those carbohydrates in your muscles. And that's called glycogen. That's just like the fancy word for carbohydrates, water, and sodium put together and stored in your muscles. So our body will store carbohydrates in the muscles. And the reason why is because carbohydrates can be very easily broken down into glucose, which is a fancy word for sugar. So it's a very fast, easy source of energy for the body. It's the body's preferred source of energy. It's the least amount of work it has to do to get the best bang for the buck. And the body's like, well, if you're consuming carbohydrates, if I often need carbohydrates for energy, I might as well store some in my muscles. So you can think of it as like little gas tanks. Like your body just stores little gas reserves, like energy reserves throughout the muscles. And that's a good thing. That way we feel good and we have energy throughout the day. It's also really good for aesthetics. If you're relatively lean, having full glycogen stores, full carbohydrate stores in your muscles, kind of like blow them up. Like it's like blowing up a balloon full of air. And then that muscle kind of pushes out against the skin. So when I help people get ready for aesthetic competitions, like, bodybuilding, figure, fitness, wellness, all those things, we mess around with carbohydrates in order to make them look the leanest they can on stage. So it's kind of fun. You can, like, quote unquote, fill someone up. Now, if somebody doesn't have enough carbohydrates in their muscles, they can actually look what's called flat, where it doesn't have a lot of detail and separation and fullness to the muscles. But there's also a term called spilling over, when you have too many carbohydrates beyond what the body can store, and then all of a sudden there's excessive water underneath the skin, and it kind of like smoothens the skin out, and you can actually get like small wrinkles and pools of water, pools of water, like in the low back, a little bit on the saddlebag area for women, lower glutes. So there's like not enough carbs, which is flat. There's too many carbs, which is spilling over. So it's a fun little game, and by fun I mean high anxiety of trying to play that game. But carbohydrates, when they get stored in our body, in our muscles, they're awesome for energy. And why would we want that is when we go do a workout, you want to have the best and most readily available energy that you can get. So if I want to, run a performance vehicle, I want to have performance gasoline. I don't want to have crappy, cruddy gasoline that doesn't do whatever gasoline does. I don't know. Horrible analogy because I know nothing about cars. That's fantastic. But the idea is you want to have the premium energy source if you want premium outcome, premium energy. So carbohydrates being broken down into glucose is what our body prefers. So if I'm going to go work out and be super active and tell my body, hey, I need you to exert a lot of energy, the body's going to say, okay, well, where's my energy to do that with? We want to give it the easiest, most bestest energy source possible, and that's carbohydrates. Now, can you survive a workout fueled by dietary fats, which when broken down are commonly referred to as ketones? So that's why it's like a keto diet or ketogenic diet. So yes, you can. That is not going to be the optimal energy source, and you won't have the optimal benefits that carbohydrates offer. So, for example, another thing that carbohydrates do is they help to buffer that burning sensation you have in your muscles, which there's a lot to deal with it when you think of like lactic acid, like lactate. I think we did one relatively recent here about lactic acid. I'll have to see if I can find that podcast. But there is a ton of benefit. Okay, here we go. Podcast 1602. It's a Q&A podcast titled The Role of Lactate in Exercise. Fantastic, super fun, little nerdy one to listen to if you want to. But our body, like you commonly will hear the term lactic acid. It's not an entirely accurate term. But when we exercise, there's this buildup of material, waste material, that causes a burning sensation in our muscles. If that burning sensation isn't managed well, we would end exercises sooner than we really need to. We're ending them because our muscles burn so bad, but the muscles are actually capable of a lot more. And because we stop short of what the muscles are truly capable of, we don't get a lot of adaptation stimulus from that exercise. So you don't fully push the muscle to its true edge, and then that doesn't then give the body the best demand for making changes to that muscle. So not only do carbohydrates provide the best energy source, they also provide, through a mechanism, they can reduce that burning sensation that we have in our muscles. And that way we can push harder in our workouts, perform more, and push the muscles closer to their true failure point. And then also, the benefit of all that, both of those things combined, is you just have a better overall stimulus. So whatever the workout is, you're trying to present a challenge to the body, and then you want the body to adapt to that challenge. You want to present a strength challenge, the body adapts by making more strength. You want to present a muscle tissue stress challenge, the body adapts by making bigger muscles. Whatever it is that you want the body to get better at, when we train, we basically just make the body well aware of how horrible it is at that thing, and then we hope through sleep and food that it gets a lot better at that thing. That's kind of the idea. So the purpose of carbohydrates before a workout is just to have the best energy source available to reduce that muscle burning, and then that helps to overall maximize the stimulus of the workout. That way you'll get the best adaptation push when you're trying to recover between the workouts. Now, sometimes people worry, if I eat carbohydrates, I'm going to get fat. No. Oh, for the love of God, no. Carbohydrates do not make you fat. Excessive consumption of carbohydrates make you fat, but so does excessive consumption of dietary fats. So it's just, if you eat in excess of what you need, you have the risk of gaining body fat. And the reason why I say it that way is, it's not like if I have one big meal, all of a sudden I'm fat. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But if you chronically overeat, whether it's carbohydrates or dietary fats, then you're going to gain body fat. It's not carbohydrates alone that are the problem. It's when people overconsume them, and often people have trouble, emotionally controlling carbohydrates and or just controlling the volume because they tend to taste good, and people can eat a lot of them. So we tend to feel more satiated from dietary fats and proteins than we do from carbohydrates. So people can eat a lot of carbohydrates before they realize, oh crap, I overeat my carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, they're not going to inherently just on their own make you gain body fat. But how we can use carbohydrates to ensure we have the best workouts, but to control body fat, is that you want to have a lot of carbohydrates around your workout time, and then try to reduce the percentage of carbohydrates away from your workout time. In general, the way I think of carbohydrates is they're fast energy, and dietary fats are slow energy. If I'm doing something that I need a lot of energy for, and I need it like kind of right now, like a workout, then I want carbohydrates. If I'm not really doing anything, I'm just sitting and typing on my computer, I don't need fast energy, I need slow energy, so that's dietary fats. I don't need to be mutually exclusive, where I only have dietary fats or only have dietary carbohydrates, but I can change the percentage a little bit. or the type of carbohydrates. Some carbohydrates digest faster than other carbohydrates. So there's a lot of variance within our food to digestion rates. But the idea is, if I'm about to go work out and I want energy now, I want to eat energy sources that digest now. And that's sugars and fast digesting carbohydrates. If I'm not really doing much and I just want energy sustained over time, I want to eat foods that digest slowly over time. That's kind of a general idea. So have carbohydrates around your workouts and then lower the carbohydrate percentage away from your workouts. That's the best way to manage carb loading for workouts without gaining body fat. Then we look at it and we say, okay, well, how many carbohydrates should I have before the workout? I'm going to give you a general, pretty good way to know what you would need. So what I mean by this is I'm going to give you some equations. Now, this all would need small modifications on an individual basis, but this will give everybody a chance to be in the ballpark. Okay. So if we take our daily calories and we subtract our protein calories. Now, if you only know the protein that you need in grams of protein, say you're supposed to have 100 grams of protein, there are 4 calories per gram of protein. Now, those are all, like there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates, there's 9 calories per gram of fats. That's all kind of like a little give and take. There's a little bit of variance in there between the sources, but those are pretty good, accurate numbers that we can use. So there's 4 calories per gram of protein. So if you have 100 grams of protein, that would be 400 calories. If you have 150 grams of protein, that would be 600 calories. So you want to take your grams of protein, multiply it by 4. That gives you your protein calories for the day. So you want to take your total daily calories, subtract the protein calories, and the remaining number is your energy calories. That would be the calories you're going to get from dietary fats and carbohydrates. Now, what we can do is we can divide our day into thirds. So the part that we're awake, so don't worry about the 6 to 8 hours that you're sleeping, but the part that you're awake is, we're just going to say it's going to be roughly 18 hours. The first 5 to 6 hours of being awake is one time block. The second 5 to 6 hours of being awake is a second time block. And then the last 5 to 6 hours or so of being awake is the last time block, the third time block. What you want to say is, okay, if I'm working out, which time block does my workout fit into? Am I working out in the first 5 to 6 hours of the day, the middle 5 to 6 hours, or the last 5 to 6 hours? Wherever it falls, that's okay. Just be aware of it. During that time block, you would want a really high percentage of carbohydrates. So you would take your energy calories and you can divide them by 3. So let's say you're supposed to have 1,500 energy calories. So you took your daily calories, you subtracted the protein calories, you're left with 1,500 energy calories. If I divide that by 3, that means I get 500 energy calories per time block. Out of those 500 calories, if I'm working out during that time block, I want them to be predominantly carbohydrates. Then the other 2 time blocks, that 500 calories that I'd have for each of those time blocks, I could have a greater percentage of dietary fats and or slower digesting carbohydrates. So that's generally the idea, is for anyone listening, you take your daily calories minus your protein calories. That equals your energy calories. You divide your energy calories by 3. That gives you the amount of energy calories, dietary fats and dietary carbohydrates, that you should have per 5 to 6 hours of the day. During the time block that you work out, the majority of those calories, energy calories, should be from carbohydrates. The other time blocks, mostly dietary fats or a mixture of slow digesting carbohydrates. So that's a pretty easy way, if you write it all out, to calculate a good estimate of how many calories you should be having around your workouts. And then of those calories, you would just make more of them carbohydrates. Now, a good question would be as well, how do I know what carbohydrate source is best? Do I have sugars if I'm eating 3 hours away from my workout? Probably not. How close to the workout should I start converting over from, complex carbohydrates to simple carbohydrates? So I'm going to give you a general rundown This is just to give you some idea, okay? If you're less than 10 minutes before the workout, you want to focus on liquid sugars. Sports drinks like Gatorades, Powerade, fruit drinks, iced tea, lemonade, whatever the hell it is. Just a liquid sugar. If you're 10 to 20 minutes before the workout, you still want to have liquid sugars, but you could have some solid food sugars like candy or fruit. That would be okay. If you're like 20 to, say, 90 minutes before the workout, you want to focus on refined carbohydrates, or quote-unquote white carbohydrates. So like a bagel, bread, pasta, potato, rice, tortilla wrap, but like a white potato, not a sweet potato. White bread, not wheat bread. If you're greater than 90 minutes away, then you want the less refined, more of the wheat, more of the multi-grain, bagel, bread, pasta, potato, rice, tortilla wrap, that kind of stuff. Okay? So that's a good general idea of where to start. Then, if we get to the listener's question, and I think I'm interpreting it correctly, the question would be, is consuming carbohydrates during the workout helpful if you already have full carbohydrate stores? So let's say that you're consuming like the right amount of carbohydrates, and you feel like you've had carbohydrates between your last workout and this workout, and you're like, you know what, I'm not in a major deficit. I feel like I have pretty good energy. Do I need to drink carbohydrates while I work out? This is a yes and a no. The no is going to be just preferential based on how you feel. The yes is based on science. So what I mean by that is, should you have carbohydrates while you work out? Yes. As you exercise, you'll burn some of the stored carbohydrates that you have in your muscles. But there is a speed limit. There's a limit to the rate in which the body can break those carbohydrates down from the muscles, be able to convert them to glucose, and then be able to use them. There's a limit to how much it can do that. So if you supplement by having liquid glucose, by drinking it, during the workout, that saves the body some of that energy, and you can actually have more glucose available than you would without drinking glucose. So supplementing your existing carbohydrates in your muscles with dietary carbohydrates, glucose, can help provide greater energy, greater buffering of that muscle burning sensation, and a greater overall stimulus. So if we exclude any other factor, the answer would be yes. Now, sometimes it could be no, because sometimes people are like, well, I don't like drinking a lot of fluid when I work out because then I have to pee a whole lot. Okay, fine, don't. Assuming that you're consuming the proper amount of carbohydrates going into the workout, the right amount of calories, then you're probably not going to be in a major deficit. It's not going to be the end of the world, so you don't have to drink them if you don't want to. So it's more of like, like, for example, a lot of CrossFit athletes are like, I don't have time to drink. I'm running around doing this thing and that thing. Often the workouts kind of split into maybe like a strength section and a Metcon section. So you can drink a little bit before the strength section or drink a little bit before the Metcon section. Like, there's ways to kind of sneak it in a little bit if you want. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. If you don't want to, that's okay. But if we look at the scienciness of it, yes, the preferential answer, don't have to if you don't want to. So I tend to maximize workouts as much as I possibly can. So I will drink like a protein drink while I work out. I actually have, it's called Carnivore. It's a pre-made protein drink. And let me pull that out here so I can actually tell you. I forget the company name. I think they're called Muscle Meds. Let me see. Muscle Meds, and it's the protein drink is Carnivore. It's actually a beef protein isolate. There's nothing fancy about that. I just sometimes get an upset stomach from whey protein. So I'm doing a beef protein isolate. There's 40 grams of protein in it. It has no fat, no lactose, no sugars, no gluten. So there's no sugars in it. So I actually consume sugars before the workout, and I will sip on a mixture of Gatorade powder and water. That's roughly around 20-ish grams of sugars. I'll drink that during the first half of the workout, and then I drink my protein shake during the second half of the workout. So I tend to focus on maximizing the workout as much as I possibly can. And then I'll, if I'm worried that I'm over-consuming anything, I'll try to pull back on calories at a different time of the day. So my goal is to get as much possible bang for my buck out of the effort I'm putting into my workout. So I don't want to under-consume energy at that time and not be able to maximize that workout stimulus. Okay. So that's kind of the idea. The general question for the podcast is how many carbs before a workout is too much. As long as you're, like, we going through that equation, I won't go back through that equation, but we do the daily calories minus the protein calories equals the energy calories. And then of the energy calories, you have a third of that during the training block. And then of those calories, the more carbohydrates, the better. As long as you're adhering to that kind of like caloric control, there is no too much. It's only too much if you're not paying attention to how many calories you're having and you end up consuming way too damn much, and then you start accruing body fat. And then it's like, oh man, what am I doing wrong? Well, you're not counting everything. So you got to kind of be aware of how many carbohydrates are allotted for that time and then maximize those carbohydrates you want to figure out how many calories are allotted for that time and then maximize those calories as being carbohydrates. The more carbohydrates you have before the workout, the better energy you're going to have, the better muscle burning kind of buffering aspect, and then a better overall stimulus for the workout. Cool. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully we gave a good answer to all that. If anybody has any follow-up questions, just shoot me an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com like this listener did, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So I do get a lot of emails, and as I've said a couple times before, give me a little bit of grace. Give me about 2 weeks, and I'll get back to everybody. I have, at this point, been able to get back to everybody within 14 days. So thank you for everybody who sends me an email. I love it. It's super motivational, so please keep sending them. Give me 14 days, and I'll get back to you. So sometimes the questions lead to podcasts. Sometimes I just send answers. So I don't mind. It's fun. I really appreciate people participating in the podcast. It makes me feel like this is more beneficial, which is more rewarding for me. So I really do appreciate the interactions, and it's super fun to get the emails from like all over the world. So I really appreciate that, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of motivation. So thank you. Again, my email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, please share it. If it's helped your life, please tell others how, and then hopefully that can motivate them to reach out and participate as well. Just let them know that they can ask any question they want for free and get it answered. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. We can continue to help everybody and provide like a free resource for everybody to get their questions answered and people to hopefully get closer to living their healthiest and happiest life. If you want to donate, you can do that on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Even just $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can give, it all adds up and it all makes a significant benefit. So thank you very much to those who do that. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. On Instagram and YouTube, you can find us and follow us under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.